special thanks to Peter Stavrianidis for his input in the beginning stages of this event. Special welcome goes out to our corresponding guilds here on the East Coast, who is also participating this evening, the Vermont Guild and Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Long Island, Northern Jersey, the Maryland Capital Guild. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody. Star Guild,
City.
Star City, right? Star City. And we appreciate your helping us publicize this and get it out there. And we have a very nice participation this evening for the panel discussion. So without further ado, I don't want to take any more time. I'm going to pass it over to Philip, who I'm sure everybody knows. And let's get on with it.
Thanks, Joseph. So Joseph is a diamond dealer for Jim Wave, as well as the president of the New York City Guild. So we want to give you a little bit of publicity there, Joseph. Thank you very much. And John Phillips tells me that the chat is disabled, so there'll be no talking amongst yourselves. Just save your questions or just put your questions in the Q&A and we will address those towards the end. So let's just start off with, the title of this webinar, of course, is You're Open. We hope you are. If you're not, get ready. And then ... what's next? So we want to just launch right into the what's next part. We will certainly look back on the last several months at some things we've done, but what's next is even more pressing. So I'd like to ask our panelists to share some lessons you've learned and what are a few things that'll never be the same again. So we could start with Melissa, maybe?
Sure. Goodness, I can say a couple of things really quickly, like bullet points, and it's number one, cut yourself some slack. Number two, be ready to change, pivot at a moment's notice. For us, every plan that we tried to put in place to gear up for our reopening changed, and I'm sure you all found that to be the case as we were gearing up to shut down too, is that, you know, every 48 hours, the dynamic could be completely different. And for us, we finally got the go-ahead from the city of Chicago to open, and then the protesting and looting started. So for us, we were not able to open on the day that the state and the city told us that we could open because we were broken into and rebuilding a little bit. So it was another pivot. And I think that that's been really one of the biggest things for us this whole time is just don't let the way you used to do things hinder you from making decisions and looking forward, because you do have to be able to be nimble and make decisions quickly.
Can you give an example, Melissa, of something that would have hindered you because of the way you've done it before?
Well, one example, not in terms of reopening, but just in customer service and the way that we do business, we were always really afraid to do delivery before. We just thought of it as a security risk, and we didn't want to put somebody out there with valuables on them, somebody being me, my husband, or one of our team members. And when we were closed, it was really one of the only ways that we could still service our customers without being open. And so delivery became a big part of our repertoire now. As a matter of fact, I just got back from delivering something to a client about 30 minutes before we started. And that's a big part now of what we're doing service-wise, and one thing that's different that we really had to change our perspective on.
That's great, thank you. Adam, tell us what you've learned, or maybe what some things you've seen some of your retailers that you work with learn, and a few things that'll never be the same again.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting, so much of it is dependent on where you are and what you're seeing out there, and what the circumstances are surrounding your store, whether you're downtown in the middle of it all, or you're out in the suburb, or you're out in a standalone store in a resort town. Everything's different for everybody. I'd like to say that most things are very positive. Sorry about the airport announcements, everybody.
Adam, why don't you hold your mic a little closer to your mouth too?
Okay, can you hear it? Okay. So yeah, when this announcement's going on, I'll speak a little louder just to overpower it. But yeah, good things are happening. People who got creative, who had the long-standing relationships with their clients, were making business happen, even the slowest parts, which came back to us and trying to ship things out to when people needed them. We're seeing people do more online business, people texting, Zooming, all these different applications that all of a sudden became very important to doing business and maintaining relationships. Who would have thought about Zoom before January? And with all of the virus coming around now, it's a very common thing as part of all of our businesses. I'm sure, whether it's retail or wholesale. I'm just back out on the road now, so back in, but really at the demand of the retailers that they're back in business and doing good things. So we're definitely seeing that upswing in momentum in the business. Uh, Again, it's really dependent on where you are. So if you're in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, you know those summer residents have returned. Business is good. They really haven't seen the virus issues as badly as some, other than people getting to their location. But if you're in Chicago, like Melissa, there's still a quarantine in effect. So I can't come see Melissa even if I wanted to. So there's certainly challenges that are existing, and I'm not sure what's never gonna be the same. I think in our business, the relationship aspect of it is so important that the face-to-face time is always going to be almost a necessity, whether we do more virtual or not. But it's going to be some interesting times coming up over the next few months. But what we're seeing as far as momentum building in the business, there's definitely pent-up demand out there. Sales are being made, and I think there's uh, room for optimism coming up.
Thank you. Amanda.
So, one of the things that we have learned is that you don't have to know all the answers, and that's okay. And as long as you are staying authentic to yourself and your customers, and you're being transparent with the communication to your customers and your team, you're keeping up to date on all the different guidelines and all the different opportunities there are for help, like the PPP and the SBA loans. Um, I think that is really where you need to be in order to keep the confidence level and the trust level of your team and your customers up. We also learned, and if you weren't already here, you sure were during this whole thing and for the future, to just get comfortable being uncomfortable, to have as many options as you possibly can for your clients, to also, for us, it was following the CDC guidelines as closely as possible and doing what was best for our team, giving them options, giving our customers options. Like Melissa said, delivery. I mean, when we were closed, we couldn't even have anyone in our parking lot. So it was really just making sure that we could ship and making sure that we could deliver. So I think those things are here to stay. Everybody's comfort level's different. Some people are okay now venturing out with a mask, social distancing. Some people still don't want to leave. And I think making sure that you are maintaining various options for your clients and talking about it consistently and having a consistent message is really important.
Thank you. So, Amanda, I know that probably all of us at various levels worked from home until we reopened, and there was probably some at home, some at the office, sneaking in, that sort of thing. Are there any positions in your company that might not come to the store or the office every day, that might telecommute? Because that's one of the things outside of our industry that everyone that's worked from home many of them want to keep working from home.
Yeah, so our marketing team, well, I think that's actually a really good point to bring up, because it's not even like we could have our entire team working here at our store, even if we wanted to, due to our capacity restrictions. It made scheduling an absolute nightmare. However, we had to figure out, and it's almost like just shooting in the dark, how many clients we thought would want to come in, how many employees and which employees we would need in order to help those clients. And then we had to make the decision on which of those employees could work from home. And when we chose to have them telework, making it consistent and comfortable so that they weren't having to ping back and forth from home and work. Because as a lot of you know who have multiple stores or multiple locations or currently work from home, it's difficult to work from home and then come and work at a different place. You get used to a routine.
And the
So
portability, sometimes you have to
yeah,
carry this computer and all these papers and this sort of thing. And once you get set
right.
up and stuff, Adam's used to it. He's on the road all the time.
Well, I look like I'm in high school with my binder and my computer, just carrying it around, like, and I'm okay with it, but some people aren't. So we have our marketing team, and we have made it so that they are stationed at home, and they probably won't be coming back to the store. Because in talking about the future, who knows what's going to happen? So making sure that you have this set up now, I think, is key. While equipment's available, while things are available to you, things aren't skyrocketing in price, I would set it up now.
Good point. Melissa, any teleworking in your company?
We had only one person that we were able to do that, and she, we had her working on the website remotely. Steve and I were bouncing back and forth between the store and home for the time that we were closed. But when you have primarily full-time salespeople, working from home isn't much of an option. And especially when you had people, because one of the things we started doing was virtual appointments. And it's really hard to do a virtual appointment with somebody who wants to see a selection of jewelry and all the jewelry is locked away in the store and you're at home. So for us, it really wasn't very feasible. We did what we could, but there was very little opportunity for that.
Adam, can you think of any other retailers that have had success in having people work at home, whether it be clienteling or virtual appointments, anything like that? You're still muted.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, it's I think people are doing it various different ways. A lot of people, even before this happened, were very comfortable doing, you know, FaceTime appointments, you know, from long distance. Several retailers that I know have long distance clients anyway. Maybe they're only seasonal in their business, and so they're working with them over that way. So a lot of them had already kind of ventured into this realm. But I'm seeing a lot more retailers that, instead of doing a trunk show, hey, good timing, instead of doing trunk shows where groups of people or events coming into the store, they're now setting up appointments virtually, so they can, if it's merchandise they don't typically have in the store, they can set it up appointment by appointment, and actually, as Melissa said, go through it with their clients over Zoom, over FaceTime, and actually show them without them ever having to come into the store. Certainly it helps eventually when they can come into the store, because as much as we try to do this, jewelry is such a tactile thing. It's such a feel thing that, you know, and it's the one thing that's really set our industry apart, I think, from, you know, just going all online or all virtual, is that it's still something to hold that in your hand and try it on, and have somebody describe it to you in person, and talk about the feel and the comfort. So as much as this virtual thing is here, I'm not, you know, I think it's still going to be a component going forward, but it's still going to be difficult to take that whole feel of selling jewelry out of the hands of somebody and doing it face to face.
And if I could interject quickly, just to agree with what Adam's saying, is that the moment that we were allowed to open up and have customers in, our request for virtual appointments basically stopped. So we were doing it out of necessity, and people having maybe a little bit of pent up wanting to still shop. But I don't know that we've had a single virtual appointment in the month that we've been reopened.
But they're coming in the store.
They're coming in the store, and they prefer to come to the store.
Right. I was
think
thinking
what
about
what I'm hearing too, Philip, is that you're not getting as many tire kickers in the store. Our stores are seeing really good quality people. They're seeing people come in and maybe spend a little bit more time in the store. Maybe they've been stuck at home so long, but they're spending a longer time with the people in the store, maybe dragging it out a little bit, enjoying the experience. But it's certainly something I'm hearing from a lot of different stores, is that the quality of the person coming in is great. The closing ratio is up, and there certainly is that pent up demand for the purchase. And I think we're in a great position for this, because you look at other factors that really affect our business. Our biggest competition is probably travel, and nobody's going anywhere internationally. I think the opportunity for jewelry to take a real big jump up as an important purchase for this upcoming year is going to be big. And so I think it's just a matter of making sure we have a great experience and we have great merchandise in the store, and we're ready for those clients to come in and really set ourselves apart. I think it's a great opportunity for everybody involved with jewelry.
That transitions right into our next point. Let's talk about what you're doing now, what you're buying now, what you're doing in preparation for fourth quarter. Obviously, we've got third quarter as well, but fourth quarter specifically. Are you buying, or are you being conservative? And how do you forecast that? How do you decide what you want to buy, how much you want to buy? Maybe what conversations are you having with your vendors about that? So let's start with Amanda on that.
So we are definitely tailoring our budget. We are not going in with the same budget that we had and created, because our purchasing budget is based on previous sales. However, we are happy that we are going to be buying. There are people out there who are shopping. And so we're really kind of starting high level and focusing on our fast sellers. And then we are moving down from there. And we are asking our vendors to work with us on memo, and everyone has been fabulous with that, so that we can make those higher sales without necessarily having to pull that out of our budget. So it's not exactly the same. It's a little bit more of a hybrid, but we are happy that we're not where we feared we would be, which is not able to buy or not needing to buy. I mean, right. Being busy is not something that I thought I'd be saying this time when this all happened. And we are busy, and we're looking forward to continuing. And I agree with Adam that, when people ask me like, well, who's your biggest competition? I'm like, Viking cruise, travel, that is our biggest competition. And that's not happening right now. And we need to still fulfill those people's life occasions and with something that lasts forever.
Thank you. Good point. Melissa, what are you buying?
Goodness. We are buying, but we haven't bought yet. We've been open a month now. We opened a month ago today, and we were closed for 3 months. We're also in a very unique position that and I consider it quite lucky, that we consolidated to one store fourth quarter last year. So I'm lucky in that we didn't have multiple stores to go through this challenging time. But what it means is that we have a lot of inventory. So we're being really targeted. Our plan going into Vegas was not to do a buy like we normally do anyway, because we are inventory heavy. So we were already trying to change our buying strategy for this year before everything blew up. Just yesterday, I started identifying some of my top sellers that I've sold out of stock. In part, our top sellers, we try not to necessarily sell out of stock. We try and order them. But when all of our suppliers were shut down too, there's no way I wasn't going to make a sale. I was sizing what was in the case. I was selling what I had. Usually top sellers, I try and always special order off of. But, when it's, do you make the sale or not make the sale? You better believe I'm sizing the ring, setting a stone, whatever, making the sale. So yesterday I went through and made a list, identified those things that I definitely want to make sure that we have back in the store. And then the collections that I know always do well during the holidays, those are the things that I want to go back and revisit. we are not a memo store. We've never leaned on our vendors to ask for memo goods. We buy and own 100% of our inventory. And that might change this year. It's a little tough because we really do focus on featuring small batch designer makers. And I know that they don't have a lot of inventory to have sitting in a store. But conversely, I think some of our partners also have been shut down for a long time and would be quite happy to have some things moved. So that we're going to negotiate a couple of agreements where we'd be happy to, you know, overnight something to one of their clients if we can sit on it in the store, and we'll supplement our buying that way too. But we're not on lockdown. We're just not going in as aggressively as we would like Vegas night 2019.
Did either Amanda or Melissa, did you attend any of these virtual trade shows? And did you find any value there if you did?
Yes, I attended the AGS virtual show for Conclave. I know RJO is coming up as well, so I'll be attending that.
And I did also the couch conference that Ben Smithy puts on. So they weren't buying events, they were education events. But absolutely going forward, not only am I trying to get, you know, Steve and I on these events, but trying to get our staff on them as well. The one thing I didn't mention that we've also done to really change and adapt is now we're operating by appointment only. And I think a lot of these events in the past have been daytime events that I can't necessarily have my sales staff available for. But if we continue going forward being appointment only, I can block that off. And if there's going to be a conclave session that I want somebody to sit on that's at 3 p.m, I just don't need to let customers in the store for that hour, and I can invest in my team and having them educated.
I just wanted to add that IJO is also doing an educational event at the end of the month.
Thank you. Yes, a good point. So, Adam, anything you need to add there? If not, I have another question for Melissa.
I think just on the merchandising side, the trends that I'm kind of seeing is that, yeah, people aren't extending themselves too much. And I think on the supplier side, because I know there's probably a number of suppliers that are on here, I think patience is really the key. And whatever you can do to support your retailers through this time, that's what you want to do. I know we're being super patient. You know, we're not being aggressive at all. It's really, how can we support you? What can we do to support you? And the stores that are really getting ready for the holidays, getting ready for the fall season are ordering core fast sellers. They're choosing things that they know are going to turn. And then, you know, we support them by providing memo on bigger pieces, more unique pieces. We're seeing a lot of requests for yellow diamonds, fancy shapes. A lot of really kind of interesting different things are selling beyond just the normal kind of classic styles. So it seems to me retailers are playing it a little safe on what they're stocking, but their clients are asking for things that are a little more different and a little more unique that we can kick over on memo and provide them with the opportunity to actually sell something that they wouldn't normally stock.
Thank you. Melissa, I know in our previous conversation, you mentioned something about payment method that that's never going to go back to the way it was. Can you expand on that for a little bit before we move on?
Yes, for sure. Thank you for reminding me of that. So, goodness, it was game changing for us. And I'll give you just a hint of a backstory without getting too long. But at Conclave last year, we met the people from Podium and started using their service for texting with clients, which has really in itself been very big game changer for us. And about the week before we were closed, Podium came out and notified their clients that they were going to be offering this payment portal through their Podium app. And what it does is it allows us to send payment requests to people with a secure online portal link that my client can then make a payment through. So while we were closed, we didn't have access to a credit card terminal, and we had no way of collecting money from somebody who we could potentially collect money from. And In the past, before COVID, we were taking people's credit card numbers over the phone. We were manually entering them into the credit card terminal. You have not only a higher transaction fee for doing that, but you run the security risk of you actually taking somebody's credit card information. Now with the secure payment portal, say I have a client who was in, this happened today, a client who was in yesterday, they wanted to think about it. They got back to us today and said, hey, can I put a deposit on that thing I was looking at? I want to buy it. Well, now with a few keystrokes, I go through that Podium app. I can send a payment request to my client. They have a few keystrokes and all of a sudden I've got the money. And that was a really, really huge changer for us that came out of necessity, but it's changed our procedure 100%. If we have a client who's not in front of us, they must pay through this payment portal now. It's a very competitive processing rate, and we're taking zero risk now of fraud, having somebody's number accidentally misplaced or whatever. So yeah, thanks for asking.
You're also giving them a touchless way to make a payment, which is such a big measure.
And your team doesn't have to touch anything.
My team doesn't have to touch anything. In addition to that, I still have people who are wanting to do curbside pickup. And so by allowing them to pay for mostly repairs, I can run things out to the car and we don't have to deal with that either. And it's, again, it's one of those things that wasn't even on our radar 4 months ago. And now it's a part of how we'll operate going forward for sure as our procedure.
You've increased the luxury experience by your clients to not have to park in downtown Chicago.
Oh yeah,
that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. So do any of you have a clienteling super experience that happened during shutdown that you'd like to share that maybe we can learn from? A sale that was made because you reached out to someone and said, hey, I know, how are things going with you? Or whatever the case may be.
I can share something that we did, and we had about 400 pearl necklaces left over that we weren't able to use, that we bought in order to donate for a charity's like swag bags that we do. And they had canceled their event. So we had these necklaces, and our marketing director said to me, she's like, we need to just give these away to all of the doctors and nurses and essential workers that are going out there and risking their lives every single day, who are really in a pretty thankless job right now. And so we use social media, emails, and our website to let people know that all they had to do was email us their credentials, address, and we would send them a free pearl necklace. And I can't say that we did get sales from it, but that really wasn't the point of us doing it. Just the tears and the thank yous and the stories, and this made me feel like what I was doing was worth it. And now I'm going to wear this, the pictures of them wearing their necklaces going into work. And these memories that hopefully they look back on this time and say, I really made a difference. And this is what I have to show. And so not something specific clienteling wise, but just a feel good thing that we were able to do to let them know that we're grateful and thank you.
Well, thank you, Amanda.
I can add something clientele wise.
Please.
Us being in New York City and being wholesale diamonds, we had some of the similar experiences that Melissa had in Chicago. But even though I was working from home, we were managing to get into the city a couple hours a day. And since we were probably one of the few limited people in New York who were still able to ship, I had reached out to a couple of people and said, how you doing and whatever, people I hadn't sold to before. And they said, you know what, while I've got you on the phone, do you have this, that, and the other thing? And clientele-wise, it worked out very nicely for us. The fact that we were sneaking in a little bit and being able to ship. And Adam, I envy you that you're back on the road. I want to get back out too.
You know, it's not that there's any sort of big rush to get back out here. It's actually busier than you would think it would be at these airports. But I think people are wanting to get back to a sense of normalcy. You know, and from my standpoint, it's really about visiting. I'm not really trying to sell anything other than touching base, seeing how things are going. During, you know, when everything was shut down, I kind of went old school and did handwritten notes to all my clients, just saying, "Hope you're doing well." Not nothing about selling. Um, but when people started to open up, you would hear back from people, "Hey, we really appreciate," because so much of what we do is based on the relationships that we have, and
Exactly.
just showing that you care, just saying that, "Hey, I care about you," or, you know, I hope the best, I hope everything's going great. That simple message can mean so much to people who are going through these things and dealing with these things in different ways. And so I really stayed off email, I stayed off social media stuff, but handwritten notes for me, and all of that is coming back. And people, I think, appreciate that. So it's never a bad thing to just kind of put yourself out there a little bit and make people feel like they've got some support, and they've got, you know, especially us as suppliers, we're in their corner and they're ready to help. And I think that's gone a long way. And I think, you know, as we get out on the road here and we're touching base with jewelers, they're happy to be back in the store. They're happy to be seeing things happening. There's definitely good things happening in the stores. So I think it's really positive. Now, who knows, you know, what's going to happen with all the uncertainty happening out here with everything else, and depends where you, again, I think it depends where you live and what news station you watch and everything else as to what you foresee happening. But all we can do is really just help each other out as much as we can. And I think as an industry, I think we're really good at that, whether it's the retailers with their clients, whether it's suppliers with the retailers as their clients, whether it's the support industry people with their clients. I think if we're all just doing what we can to support each other, I think all will work out in the end.
But
I
I'm going to
agree.
interrupt again, because part of what you're saying is another thing that, you know, we're using getting back to basics and putting back into our game plan again. We've gotten really good at clienteling people for selling purposes, but while we were closed, we did a ton of outreach to clients, checking in that wasn't selling. And now that we're reopened, we're not 100% back to selling again. It's definitely still checking in with people, making sure that for us on our supplier side and on our client side, you know, how are you doing? And having these very human interactions, whether it be sending somebody a handwritten card or a happy anniversary, a happy birthday, or whatever. That's something that we're really focusing on again. That we started out of necessity while we were closed, but it's reminding us what sets us apart from the internet, and it is that human interaction, and that is a big part of what we're doing going forward again, and it's part of our game plan. It used to be way back when, and when we got big, it was easy to automate that clienteling in whatever capacity we could, but now it's not. We're not that big, and we are making the time, and we are reaching out to people, whether it's texting or just shooting off a quick little note or an email, or those of us who are friends on social media, a little message there like, hey, did you see this thing, or thinking of you, or whatever. And it's going a long way right now, because I think people need that interaction.
What I'm hearing you say is that when we've had the long game of that people buy from people they like and people that they know, it's just about keeping those relationships, and the hard sell has never been effective long term. That it could possibly make your week, but it's not going to make your business. And we're just taking the long game and kinder, gentler clienteling. So that's great. Let's move from clienteling to a subject that could be a little bit touchy, but I would love to hear your thoughts on it. So the term that we've heard for the last 5 years or more has been that there's been a contraction in the jewelry business, meaning that your neighbor jewelers are going out of business, and there'll be more of that. What are you going to do to take advantage of that situation without appearing to be the big guy that's gobbling up the neighbors? What are you going to do to reach out to your outlying communities or better clients from a jeweler that's going away? Any thoughts on that? We didn't talk about this a lot, but I'd be curious to hear what you think.
I would send them a fruit basket. No, I'm just kidding. I think making sure that you're being authentic on social media and making sure that you're being authentic with your messaging is a big one. And that's going to be what helps attract you to just potential clients. And I'd just like to say I never like hearing when there's a competitor in our industry who's struggling, especially in our area, because, you know, unless there's a specific reason why, like they're just not running a good business, you know, it's concerning. So for us, I can speak a little bit to the acquisition we just went through. Putting ourselves in front of other jewelers for what we stand for, our moral standing, our ethics, how we treat our clients, our education, how we handle our business, being part of industry groups like AGS, where we can talk about specific things and letting people know, helps draw people who might want to sell or who might be thinking of going out of business to you to see if you might be interested. And so for us, that would be the real only way that we would feel authentic in doing that. I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Yeah, it sounds like that what you're doing is letting your culture speak for you. And if it seems like a good fit for another business to sell to you, that's one thing. And if a business goes away and their clients are the type of clients that you would attract, that your model would resonate with, that hopefully they'll come to you as well.
Right.
I have suggested to one particular client that is in a rural community. Actually, he's not in that rural of a community, but there's some jewelers that are in outlying areas, maybe 30 miles away, that wouldn't have normally been within his draw, that are going away, to increase and advertise and market to those communities a little bit. Just let them know, like, we're here for you. We'll take care of you if you want, if you like.
So for us, we're not looking to, oh, I'm sorry, Philip.
Please.
So we contracted on purpose in 2019. And I know that with a couple of you, we've had conversations over the years about having 3 stores and finding that we had watered down our brand and lost our way a little bit. And so we had a 2-year plan to contract on purpose in order to be much more nimble and swift. And so for us, what's really cool right now is that we really have positioned ourselves in Chicago to be the place for small batch, responsibly sourced, independent designer makers. And we had a little bit of competition in the city, but guess what? Barney's closed. And Barney's was one of the places that did what we do. Neiman Marcus does it a little bit too. And we all know that Neiman Marcus right now is going through restructuring with bankruptcy. And so we have positioned ourselves to be in Chicago, this niche that nobody else is doing in the way that we're doing. There are jewelers that are doing a little bit here and a little bit there, but they're not doing it the way that we're doing it. And so we're not looking to be a bigger store, but we're absolutely aggressively looking to have a much bigger share of our market. And we had to get smaller to get that bigger share, which is counterintuitive, but it allowed us to tell this very compelling story that needed to not be watered down, and allowed us to go after clients that were going with the big boys, and we're the little guy. But we're definitely getting some of the clients that the big guys left when they closed or had to start pivoting, and they couldn't pivot as easy as we could.
And that's very strategic. That's fantastic. You're you're going to grow your business within your niche, and it's going to be the business that you want, not just any business. That's great. Let's take just a couple of minutes before we open it up to Q&A to talk about training. So there was a lot of opportunities for free training through some industries during the shutdown. First, I'm curious if any of your team members took advantage of that, or if you took advantage of anything, and if there was any particular one you maybe want to give a shout out to. And then also, are you doing any ongoing training initiatives with your team, such as team meetings more regularly, or just kind of an ongoing program to make sure that your team stay up to speed and continue on with their education? So we can start with the ladies, and then we'll go to Adam and see if he's seen that in the industry at all.
We definitely did. So one of the ways that we helped when we had to close our store and move our team, I'm sure everybody went through that period where before they would furlough, if they had to furlough someone, there was like that time where you were like, I don't really know when to do this. You know, during that time, we really took advantage of the training. AGS and their collaboration with GIA was amazing with the Certified Sales Associate course. That was incredible. All of our team
Really
did
is.
that.
Yeah.
The Accredited Jewelry Professional that came out, that was free. That was right? I'm saying that right? That
Yes,
was
I think so.
That was incredible. And we pushed all of that to our team. I will say they were furloughed at the time when that came out, our sales team. So we didn't make it mandatory, but we sent all of that to them. And a lot of them signed up for it. For the ongoing training, we definitely took the time that we were hunkered down to get our procedures in order. And we created a really comprehensive training guide that we're administering to all of our stores and to our entire team that they have to take. I mean, we totally like did it up like a course. There's a test and everything, essay questions. But I think it's important. So it was great for us to do too as leaders in our company, because it helped us have to get back to basics and realize what was important. And we need to be teaching our team. When some people haven't brought everyone back, but when they do, I mean, they're going to need to learn how to tie those laces again. And they're going to need to have to get back and start doing the basics, and to start every day with those basics and start from the ground up, I think is key. So that's where we started with our training, and we're going to start with the basics and work our way up.
Thank you, Amanda. Melissa?
So we also all tried to take advantage of whatever there was, whether it be the couch conference or the virtual conclave or the free course that AGS so kindly offered. And full disclosure, I am registered and I have not taken it yet. So I will put it out there. When I first registered, I think like some other entrepreneurs thought that I was going to have a few months on my hands with nothing to do. And what I found out was that I actually was working 12 to 15 hours every single day trying to just keep it all together.
Yeah.
And that's reality. And, you know, my husband keeps saying to me, how come we didn't binge anything like everybody else did? And I was like, because we had to keep it all together. Like, jewelry seems like the glamorous business, but those of us who are on this, you know, this meeting who were in the same position realized that, you know, as much as I wanted to be able to take that class that AGS so kindly offered, it couldn't be the priority for me. I had to answer every single phone call and every single email, because at a certain point we did have to furlough our whole team, and we're not all back yet. We're
Right.
bringing people back as the business can sustain them, and it's a really hard position to be in. So we're lucky enough again that we pivoted to one store last year. So we're really changing our focus and our philosophy and trying to get our culture back to basics and what it used to be. So we're having talks. They're not formal, and we don't have a formal training program like Amanda does, but every single day we're having talks about postmortems after a sale, or how we want to handle somebody before we even interact with them. And we're talking about new ideas in terms of brainstorming, how to streamline, how to be better at offering better experiences in a new world. So every day we're looking forward to see how we can interact with people in a better way. And it's no longer, like Steve and I are at the top of the pyramid and we've got 15 people. It's small and contained now, where we're having these great brainstorming sessions with our team, because we're all sharing one space together now. And we're talking about, okay, what do you think this should look like? And how would you handle the situation? And I find it's been incredible. It's almost like we're growing a new business again, and 33 years in, to have that excitement of deciding how you want to do something. We're looking at it as a big positive. We're taking this, the last 3 months of having been closed, and really looking at it as rebuilding in a good way, not rebuilding in a bad way.
Congratulations on your positivity and taking the bull by the horns. And as much as I'm sure that the AGS folks would love to have Melissa finish that course, I think that was designed for people who, it was either that or binge watching Netflix, right? I mean, that's really the ideal there. Adam, anything to add in this conversation?
I think again, and I'm the eternal optimist, and I look at the opportunity that exists right now for training, and training specifically, is the retailers can ask of us suppliers, can say, what can you do for morning training, and do it over Zoom. Never before have we really had this quick access to be able to talk to staff one-on-one through this medium, where, if Melissa calls me up and says, Adam, why don't you do a presentation on colored gemstones, or do whatever, then we're happy to do it, and so we can push it out there and let it be known that it's available, and we can do it. And for the retailers, take advantage of your suppliers. Let them share their knowledge about the product that they're selling, because that's what they sell, that's what they focus on, and they know more, they can share more, they can really impact your team in ways that you may not realize. So I think just this medium alone is a huge opportunity for suppliers to have more interaction with the retail stores and the staff when it comes to training.
Right. Joseph, you have something to add to that?
Well, I can tell you that I've been in this business over 30 years, and during the time that I was working from home, I was on at least 1 or 2 webinars a week on different topics. And actually, I think I learned some things. Some of the better ones that I participated in were about ethical sourcing, and just like listening to things more from a retail perspective. But I got a lot out of it, even though I was stuck at home. The downtime, tried to put it to the best advantage that I could.
Thank you. So we've done we've been able to manage the questions as we go, and they've worked in very nicely to our conversation. I just wanted to bring up a couple of words that I wrote down for the panelists to reflect on, as well as the participants. And I want to see if our panelists have anything else they'd like to add regarding these words. We heard grace, or cut yourself some slack. I'm not sure exactly the phrase there. We heard nimble a lot. I'm absolutely sick of the word pivot, but we heard that again. No, I'm just done with the word. And we heard creative. We heard about communication. And then we heard that it's okay to not always know. So maybe that's kind of going back to that, cut yourself some slack. Any comments from any of our panelists regarding any of those ideas?
I'd like to say that I think the key word of all the words that you mentioned to me was communication. I think that during the time, the past few months, as Adam mentioned before also, just communicate with people. That was very beneficial to everyone. And I think you needed to tell people you're here, whether you're open or whether you're closed. You know, a lot of us in this business are at this point already personal friends, not just a client vendor or supplier relationship. And it was important to me anyway, to let a lot of people know that, hey, we're all going through the same thing. And if I can do anything to help you, I'm here. Period. No sales, just like Adam said, no selling, just reaching out to friends in this business. Communication to me is the key word.
I think also though, in what you were just saying is empathy, which isn't a word that Philip wrote down, but you just described it perfectly.
Yeah, my emotional intelligence is not the strongest, but that's a good point. Amanda, you had something to add?
I just, you know, I think success is not built on luck or being at the right place at the right time. Success is built on staying the course and keep pushing through, especially when things are hard. And being able to recognize that with every challenge, if you keep combing through that and pushing through that, there will be an opportunity. And for all of us jewelers who are sticking it out, staying the course, and pushing through these challenges, we will find our opportunities and we will come out of this stronger than we were when we went into it. And that's with all of those words that you wrote down. And the one word I would add is resilience. And I think maintaining that and making sure that you know that if you've made it this far and you're still on this Zoom call, that you will keep going and make it even further. And we will make it past fourth quarter, and we will make it past 2021. And we will look back at all the things that we've learned from each other and all the things that we keep or we change. And we will be glad that we did it. And we'll think back on these times, as long as you keep a strong, positive attitude, that, yeah, I made it through COVID. And look at where we are now.
Thank you, Amanda. I thought of a phrase as you were saying that, that's the harder I work, the luckier I get. There's something to making your own luck there.
Yeah.
The luckier I get, that's right. We think of our grandparents that made it through the Depression and survived, and some of the things they learned for World War II or whatever the case may be, some of the things they learned carried generations, and some things have to be taught the hard way. And we're learning some lessons, but we're not just going to let them steamroll over us. We're going to learn from those lessons, and we're going to come out stronger than ever. Looks like one more question may have popped up here. Let's just see. I think a lot of complimentary conversations. I'm going to quickly share my screen and let you see our contact info. And then Joseph has a few things he'd like to say.
I just wanted to say, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, as we look at all our contact information, I just wanted to say again in closing, I appreciate very much from Melissa and Adam and Amanda and of course Philip. Appreciate very much your willingness to participate in this panel tonight. I think the discussions we had were very beneficial to anybody who was listening. And I think it gives us all hope going forward. And just in closing, again, thank you. And I want to give a special shout out and a special thank you to our friends at the AGS office in Las Vegas, to Lauren Johansson, to Dee White and Robin Skipicki. We could not have done this without you. So I thank you very much for all your help with the planning and carrying out of our webinar this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It looks like we're right on time, and have a great evening, what's left of it. And thank you very much for attending.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.